Every time a customer clicks, I agree, they are not just accepting terms, they're handing your brand their trust. In 2025, that trust is being tested like never before with India's digital DPDP Act coming in and now backed by fresh DPDP rules. Data privacy has moved from draft to discussion to a daily operations. Compliance is no longer a legal side, it's the front and center in how we design products, run platforms, and build digital business. At the same time, global frameworks like GDPR and other privacy regulations are raising their bar on how to collect data, process data, and protect personal data. And what happens when we don't? The real competitive edge is simple. Can organizations be trusted with data it holds? Tonight, on Power of Knowing Forum, we are going to look beyond tick box compliances and ask bigger questions. And how do we turn data privacy into strategic, revenue protecting, brand building advantage? To have this topic discussed, we have our guest Aravindan Raghavan, led large scale transformations at intersections of business excellence, cybersecurity, and privacy. He serves as a senior consultant, ex global head for business excellence, CISO, and DPO at Quest Global, and has previously been a director of IT, quality, and cybersecurity at PwC, accelerating centers after many years in senior leadership across technology and operations. So, whether you are a CSO, CISO, DPO, or CTO, founder or a business leader, the conversation is for you. And if you are asking how do we get ready for DPDP and global privacy laws without slowing your business, let's welcome Mr. Arvindan sir. We have to the podcast platform and start discussing about the topic. Sir, welcome to our podcast, sir. How are you today?
Thank you, Mr. Prem Kumar. I'm doing good. Thank you. How about you?
Good, sir. Sir, thank you for joining us again after quite for the second time. It's been an honor to have you back on the podcast, and would like to hear from you about your journey to the audience, and then we'll start about our pointers to be discussed, sir. Over to you, sir.
All right. Thank you, first of all, for inviting me for this lecture. I feel honored to be part of this session. Um, and then let me give a little bit of a background about what I've been in this industry so far. I started my journey with the famous and prestigious organization of India, Indian Space Research Organization. So I was with them, and with completely after completing my graduation in engineering, I was with them in the digital signal processing domain. That's how I started. So it was all data from the time I started my career. And then I've moved to Wipro. Uh, I was again with delivery with respect to telecom, product engineering services. Again, a lot of data. Then uh, it was in Wipro, switched my career to quality and information security, which I found very passionate about. And I thought I will switch my career from that. And after that, no looking back, moved into PricewaterhouseCoopers. I was again taking care of the quality and then cybersecurity. Then I moved to Quest Global, so which is an engineering services organization where the customer data plays a vital role in establishing the customer trust. So that's been my journey. It's been 35 plus fruitful years, and of course, I'm learning every day.
Thank you for that, sir. It's been a long journey. I think 35 years is not a small thing to do. Quality as a piece. I think you switched in Wipro is what you said. I'm an ex Wipro, right? So, and I
Oh,
see
all right.
Wipro people are there in most of the organization doing great work, sir. I should appreciate that organization which made only leaders. That's what I call it, sir. Jumping into the topic now, I want to understand why privacy suddenly has become such an important topic for businesses. Your take on
Okay. To be frank, it has not become important suddenly. Although we see it having coming to the forefront of late. Okay, it's been there in the back end all the time, but suddenly it's started getting a lot of focus. Okay, there are a few points I would like to talk about here. Um, One of the first and foremost reasons would be the regulatory pressure is now real and personal, right? So there are so many laws, like say the GDPR and our own Indian DPDP, Data Protection and Data Privacy Act, and many things, right? And there are also sectoral regulations, which is depending on which sector somebody is in, be it financial services, banking services, or the BPO kind of services, or say the medical devices kind of. So there are a lot of sectorial regulations now. So everybody is imposing a lot of direct accountability on the senior leadership. So the senior leadership suddenly starts thinking that, well, it's an important factor in the business, so I need to be focusing on to that. Otherwise, I'm going to be behind the competition. Number one. Number two, there is data everywhere. Okay, so whatever business that you are in, there is going to be a data, and more importantly, there is people everywhere. In every business, you cannot do anything without people. So the moment you have people, there is people data, which is the foremost important thing for data privacy or personal data privacy. And you have all these things. When you have data, you have AI, you have analytics, you have cloud platforms, everything that's going to make sure that the data is vulnerable, right? So the privacy becomes a strategic risk. That's the second point. The third one is the other part of the business, which is the customer. So today, customers are becoming more and more aware of the data privacy and the legal importance of that. And also, they are less forgiving. There were the days earlier, all right, something has happened, let's forget it, forgive it, and go ahead. Now it's not so because the stakes are big. And as we know, this trust is fragile. So one breach is all that you need for the customer to go away from you, and the brand credibility is lost, which has been built over a big period of time. All right. So privacy, as you rightly said in the beginning, it's no longer just a tick in the box or it's just to avoid penalties. It's become protecting revenue, protecting the reputation, increasing the growth, and giving you a competitive edge or a competitive advantage.
sir, I think the point that you are emphasizing in is, see, one is when you don't have a strong, secure system, your brand value is getting affected. The first point is that. Then today, the organizations or people who want to look at your brand look at how is your organization's security posture before they come and talk to itself, right? So that's the stage we are looking at, and with that, are you collecting what kind of data? That is more becoming crucial after the DPDP Act, is what I understand. Now, You say privacy can be a competitive advantage. How exactly does that work? Your take on it, sir.
Okay. So I will give some three or four dimensions to this one. Okay. Again, every business will have a customer community. Whatever business that we take, people, the customers are the main important aspect of your business. So the trust advantage. So the moment you have your data privacy policies in place and followed in spirit, all right. So the customers try to choose the brands which they trust with data. So the trustable data privacy policies and trustable data privacy implementations becomes the biggest point in terms of building the customer trust, right? That's number one. Second, the sales advantage. So strong privacy related aspects that will clear the due diligence faster in enterprise and global deals. If you really see, when you start these days, when we start the business deal or start with a new customer, what really happens is that one of the biggest due diligence areas is what is your data privacy aspects, right? So the questions being asked are, um, do you have any past incidents that had problems with your data privacy? Do you have anything open? What are your information security or data privacy risks? So the moment you have a clarity on it and a transparency on it, it becomes easy for the due diligence to be cleared and the business deals dealt faster. The third dimension is the marketing dimension. So just like any other marketing, so like you have today the technology knowledge, or the capability to build, the agility to build the business, all that stuff, they all are part of the marketing advantage. Plus, if you have a very good data privacy practice, which is the culture of the organization, especially in the regulated markets, which could be a finance market, or the healthcare kind of an industry, banking kind of an industry, or government and defense kind of industries, this becomes a ready clicker. So the regulated markets, people get into you very quickly. That's a third aspect. So then the fourth one is the partner ecosystem advantage. What I call as a partner ecosystem advantage is um, the way the organization is truly global. And in today's scenario, like what we have a GDPR for the Europe and then DPDP for India, almost every country has got their own data privacy policy, and the stakes are huge for not complying to that. So the moment the global partners look at you, that either you have complied with the policies and you have them implemented successfully, and you already are in that geographic space, it becomes easy for them to rate you as a matured vendor or a partner. So these are just like any other marketing or technical kind of an advantage. This becomes an extremely important criteria, which means companies with stronger private policies, they don't just avoid losses, but they win more business and they win it faster. It clicks quite easily with the customers that I don't have to worry about the privacy aspects, and this company is trustable from that perspective. So that is where the competitive advantage comes in.
Pointers are when we look at competitive advantage, you are giving a lot of data which is required in terms to be maintained, and that has to be also shown as a proof that this kind of data is being maintained, right? Now, what
Sure.
changes when companies begin to think privacy strategically instead of operational? Because we are shifting from operational to
Right.
strategy now with the DPDP Act, right? So Your take on it.
Absolutely. So there are two categories, like what you exactly asked. One is the operational, probably. I would call this as tactic, right? So the day to day operations of a company. And then the next one is strategic privacy. So we will, uh, exactly like what you said, we will classify them as operational or tactic privacy and strategic privacy, right? So what would come in the tactic privacy would be the company is totally policy focused. So in for example, somebody will ask you, do you have a data privacy policy? Do you have a password policy? Do you have an access control policy? It is going just like a book. Do you have, it's like asking a student, have you studied chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3 before the exam, right? So it's just based on a theoretical tactic kind of dealing with the policy, which is operational. And then this way what happens is it's very reactive. So if something, you wait for something to happen and then take an action based on what happened. It's a reactive kind of an approach as part of the tactics. Then most of the companies, what they do is, if they are not strategic, if they are just operational kind of a policy, they look for audits, either an internal audit or an external audit, in which there are some findings. Then let's say, all right, if something comes in an audit, I will take actions. Until then, why should I? It's like the saying, right? Why trouble, trouble, unless trouble troubles me? So this is what they try to do, but it becomes too late sometimes. The fourth aspect here is um, compliance cost. So
Hmm.
people look at it as, why should I spend money? So it's a cost. Compliance comes with a cost, like how quality comes with a cost, right? Compliance also comes with a cost. So these aspects define something like tactic, because you're not doing anything in a long term or strategic kind of measures or the policies. If you say strategic, what would you actually do? The companies would, which would like to be in a strategic kind of policy making, they look at the policies or the data protection, data privacy to be integrated into the business. Okay. So for example, whatever that I do, this becomes a first compliant dictator for me. Whatever I will do, I will take it with respect to it integrated to the business. I don't see it as a siloed one which just gets integrated to me at some point in time. Then they're always looking at this proactively. What could probably go wrong, right? So it could be due to the DPIAs they do, or risk assessments at the top level that they do, and all these things. So it becomes a proactive rather than waiting for something to happen. Then it's all trust driven. So what happens is, I need to build the trust. The trust becomes an important aspect which forms the strategic business policy. Okay, so everything revolves around trust. So I need to make sure that my company is trustable, just like I'm financially trustable because my financial process is clean. Okay, and my anything else, my integrity is clean. So my data privacy should also be clean. All right, so that's how the trust is built. The fourth one is the compliance is looked at revenue enabler rather than a compliance cost, which is just built into it, right? So we can give some examples of that. Say, let's say it's a product or a service. So you make sure the product design itself, say for example, it's a healthcare medical kind of devices or something like that. So I create a machine which gets the digital x-rays. So you will always see the name of the person, because person's name is a personal data. The name, age, everything is entered into the machine. So they will have to, when they look at that, they should think strategically. These are all access control. Only certain set of people, the doctors alone, can access it, right? Not everybody in the hospital. So similarly, if it is a software domain, I have some specific data. It is available only to certain set of people if I'm making an app development. So the policies become integrated with the product design. Then it's not just with me, all my vendors, whoever the third party vendors that I speak with, because they are part of the set of people that deal with my company's data, my employees data, my people data, my customers data. So they have a similar policy, so that not just me, my vendors also take care of the policy. This is the second strategy. Then the important one is the way the M&A decisions are taken. Okay, so the acquisitions, right? So today, if I'm acquiring a company, and if the company historically had some data privacy breaches in the past, once I acquire, I inhibit their previous whatever they had suffered, right? So automatically it becomes my accountability, my company's accountability. So the strategic privacy policies should have to be included into that. And today there are a lot of digital transformations. So these have to be built into the digital transformations, so that it's not seen as something hanging around or an afterthought. So in essence, privacy stops being a constraint, but it becomes a design principle itself for the company in terms of strategic privacy. So, this is why companies start thinking about privacy strategically instead of just operationally or momentarily, kind of.
Yeah, got that. Because we should look at the longer run rather than looking at short term. The first point. The
Yes.
second is no longer, as we said, it's a tick mark. We need to look at how we ensure the systems are safe, they are reliable and available, right? So that's a key challenge that I think
Yes.
today people have to look. So coming to our point that I want to understand from you is, how does privacy actually help in winning or retaining customers? Because when you have a breach, we spoke about this some time back. If you have a breach, then the brand value gets hit, and then we have a trust which is getting hit. So how do we look actually helping when we have privacy win or retain customers?
Okay, it's a very good question. Um, we know privacy is important. We know privacy is part of the compliance. Okay, but how does it help in terms of either winning or retaining the customers? That's a question. So, okay, today the customers see the companies that are transparent about the data usage. Okay, the biggest thing is that the questions they asked, even in terms of the time of the proposal stage, or when you talk to them in the very beginning of what we do, how we do, and what are our technical capabilities and things like that. One of the questions, thanks to the knowledge and the awareness that everybody has, more than that, it's also the liabilities and the accountabilities that could come in the future. So are you transparent about the data usage? What do you do with the data? What do you collect, and how do you make use of that? Who are all the people that have access to the data? Because today the biggest asset of the customers is the data. So if somebody is um, technically advanced, so you are, say for example, if you take an example of you're going to be with partnering with Microsoft, huge technologies, huge new products what is coming up. So everything is with the data. So it's going to have if not personal data, data about the technology, how it is being used, data about a lot of new aspects of the technology, and could be even some of the copyright related stuff and a lot of stuff. If it's a code, it becomes a copyright of them, and there are a lot of legalities with respect to that. And if it is a product, once again, nobody would like to reveal the product to the final world before even it is tested and then released. And probably um, the partner company, whoever they are going to partner with, will be having that hardware or that product to be tested and then to be used. Okay, so the data usage becomes extremely important. So those people are going to look at how transparent you are with respect to your data usage. Then how much of real control over the personal data, because I'm going to expose my team to you, okay, and my data is going to be with you, and what are you going to do with the data, especially. So are how long you will have this data. Even it's like, what we have, some of the things in the Indian context, we say that, for example, we say LIC says जीवन के बाद भी जीवन के साथ भी, kind of. So it's with the life and after the life. So even if the contract ends, what do you do with the data? So the data retention policies. Okay, so it's very important, because some of the products, some of the knowledge, if you're dealing with that, you can misuse it, right? So how are you going to have the control of the data? Who has the control of the data, right? So this plays a very important role in winning and retaining. Then how do you handle openly the incidents? In fact, most of the questions, as I told you earlier, most of the before winning, one question they ask you: in the last 2 years, what are your incidents of breach? How do you handle them? How quickly you handle them? And how much you had to pay as penalties? Because that is going to be part of my accountability once I start dealing with you. These are the important things that customer look for before rewarding a contract. The other thing is uh, a strong privacy. If I have in my company, if I have a strong privacy, I will have a better retention of the customers. Okay, the customer retention in the sense that sustainability. So even the times when things are not growing, you're going to keep this customer, because the customer knows that you are much better than anybody else in terms of handling the data privacy. Why should I go and look at somebody else? It's like, a known devil is better than an unknown angel, kind of. So I know you quite well, your policies are great. The um, uh, customer tolerance increases, so the retention is high. Okay, he is able to tolerate your smaller mistakes, because the big stakes of privacy is handled better by you. And the biggest possibility is the retention, the reference, the advocacy of the customers. The customer, even in the business, believe me, apart from marketing and sales, a lot of things go by word of mouth in the networking forums of the CXOs and stuff like that, right? So how much they are able to refer, hey, I have this one, these guys are great. Not just with the technicalities, even with the data privacy kind of aspects. So referrals. Then churn, because of that, the churn on the customers is going to be less, and higher lifetime value. Actually, the more you can sustain or repeat the customers' orders, the repeatability, or having them stay with you for longer, is a higher lifetime value that you provide to them, and they become a dependent on you, which is the biggest important stuff in any business. So trust is a new loyalty program, like a customer loyalty program, trust, and specifically with respect to the data privacy trust.
We're talking about privacy to a stage where even our phone numbers, the names, and the email IDs, personal addresses that are there, the accounts that we now, keeping that as the requirement, many leaders feel privacy is a burden, right? So that's one challenge that always we've been seeing. How do we look at reframing their mindset itself, where privacy becomes important rather than taking it as a burden? Your take on it.
Great. So it's again a very good question. So what do the leaders look at? Okay, anybody in the senior leadership, okay, what they look at is, biggest thing is, what is the risk to my business, right? So that's the one which they're going to anything that is connected to risking the business is important for me. I
Yeah.
don't care what it is. Risk is the biggest concern for me. So, how do we shift them from thinking cost aspect to the risk aspect? So, the easiest thing what a CISO or a DPO can do is you're spending $1 million in investing for some very important data privacy aspect or information security aspect. In the absence of this, your penalty risk is going to
Mm.
be $40 million, right? So, which is the biggest risk? Are you having a compliance system or the absence of a compliance system, right? So, the discussion or the talk to the senior leadership should be shifted from cost to risk reduction. That will immediately hit them. Second, trust. So, compliance and trust. So, instead of saying I'm compliant to something, you should ask, are you building the trust of the customers? Compliance is just like a ticking the box. Is this fine? It is fine. Is it fine? It is fine. But the moment you say trust, it goes beyond compliance. It is making sure what is written on the paper as a compliance is actually followed in spirit, right? So that is where the implementation and following it in the spirit becomes the culture of the organization. So the moment the compliance becomes the culture of the organization, automatically the trust creation happens. So the second question you ask the leadership is, do you want to be just compliant or do you want to be building the trust or creating the trust to the customers? The third, legal issues to business resilience. Why do we do the compliance? To be legally compliant. I would say whatever I'm doing is legal, right? Which is fine, which is right. But at the same time, what is its impact to the business resilience? Today, technology is growing so fast, and the way it is going to handle, be it AI related or chat GPTs or whatever that you have today, there's going to be a different way in which the data is going to be handled, especially the private privacy data, the customer data, the technology, your financial information, your strategy information, everything, the information about your people, the personal people information. Imagine somebody is able to access all the employee data, their skill set, their designation, their salary information, and their preference of working location, and whether they would like to, in today's context, work from home or work from office, all that. If they get the data, if they can customize their offering to these people, they can get the entire set of a department in no time to their company, right? So it's such a huge risk if your data privacy is not clear, if the data can spill over or breach. So the legal issue to how do we shift to business resilience, these are all the impacts to your how resilient you are to the business. So ask the leaders, would you rather invest in privacy implementation today, or explain, will you, what kind of a position you will take? Would you do this or stand in front of the customer or regulator or investors, saying uh, what breach happened and how did I deal with that and what negotiations I have with the authorities and how much I am supposed to spend? Are you interested in living in that kind of a discussion, or you want to rather invest in the privacy today? So that way, privacy will act as an insurance, a brand investment, and then a market enabler. That's how the privacy is going to be.
No, pointers are very clearly saying that you protect the data of the customers. You are safe to a stage where you don't lose those customers, because the data the way you process the data is the key to all the challenges that DPDP Act wants to have addressed, which we have a challenge at in today's environment. I think that's what you are trying to say.
Right.
Sir, can privacy be embedded into business strategy effectively?
Okay. Well, it can be in many ways. Maybe I will categorize them in few ways. How privacy can be embedded into business. So the moment you say business strategy, there are few things that we look at. One, what the strategy itself is. Okay, so it can be a market differentiator. It's a huge market differentiator because of the biggest word which I'm repeating is the trust building. So the strategy, privacy as a market differentiator could be the biggest one, because be it the customer data, be it our data, be it the technical data, everything. So if there is a way that you have the appropriate controls and risk management systems, even incident management systems, that becomes a huge market differentiator. That's from the if it is embedded into strategy. That's the first part. Then how do you embed into the products or the service that you provide? So this is where we call it as privacy by design. So like what I said, if it is a product, don't look at the privacy as an afterthought. From the beginning, as part of your requirements itself, add privacy policies and privacy protections and data protections, everything as part of your explicit requirements, not as implicit requirements, which can come at a later point of view, or if an audit brings it out, kind of. No, make it as your primary requirements, which is what I'm calling it as privacy by design. Okay, uh, that's the second part. Then technology. So secure all your vulnerable points in your organization. Architecture, if you're designing a software, make sure the architecture is resilient to to the maximum, to any vulnerability, any attack, as much as possible, because today it's impossible to have 100% protection, because um, the people who are um, trying to steal the data or becoming more and more smart than actually the people who are designing them. This is how the world goes. So, uh, the anytime you try to be ahead of such elements of intrusion, whatever that you can do. So you need to be on top of your toes to make sure your architecture is safe as much as possible. All right. And then the encryptions wherever is possible, and even the level of encryptions based on your need. So there is no um, higher end for these things. So if you are in a lower level of business, you don't need a defense kind of an encryption level or defense kind of a protection level. But what is needed, it is like you should not be looking at a pencil which is going to be used by an LKG student to be a product at a defense level, mill standard product. So you look at what is your need, what is your applicability, and based on that, you have all these things to the best of the requirement. Then access controls, of course, what kind of whatever the data privacy access controls, and then the physical access controls, all of them. The next important aspect in the privacy is people. So in the entire business, people are the weakest link. Okay, you can provide huge network protections, and then high encryptions, and all kind of things, access controls, and you have biometric access controls, your iris detections, all that stuff. But people are the weakest links most of the time. With all these things, how the data spread, somebody takes a photocopying of an important document, so they put it on the photocopier, they take the copy, and the original lies inside the photocopier, right? So nobody would have even imagined about that. So people are the biggest threat in element in this thing. So how do you take care of that? Awareness is one. Trainings and all kinds of things multiple times, because there is always, with the growth, new people are added, and new people always come into the organization. That's one. Second, fix it by ownership. All right, so make sure everybody is responsible for the data privacy and protections. That's an important one. Then the partners, all your vendors and whoever is your third party people. It could be as simple as somebody who provides transport, a cab for your organization. This person is going to have the employee name, the phone numbers, even probably the address of the person, all that stuff. How do you make sure such people, because it's unimaginable from where a data leak can happen, right? So how do you ensure that is protected? And then performance. How do you measure? What are the KPIs? And the senior leadership, how does it look the uh, KPIs through a dashboard? Okay, and then make sure the actions are taken as per the KPIs, right? So finally, the privacy is, when privacy is embedded early, because like what you say in a product development, the early you detect the defects, the less you spend after it comes to the production. So the same way, how privacy is embedded early, it costs less when a breach happens. Most of the time, the authorities, when they look at a breach will definitely happen. Nobody will say that it cannot happen. You should be prepared that there will definitely be a breach when there is a data. So the authorities are also going to look at how strong your policies are, and how much is your intent to be on the safer side of the law. In spite of everything it happened, makes you to be on the right side of the law, rather than I don't have anything, I let it happen. So that's where, when privacy is embedded early, it helps a lot in terms of adding more value and preventing any losses.
Now, you made two pointers which I think security by design and security by default are the two coins that are there part of cybersecurity when we start looking at. Now, privacy by design is a new thought that you are bringing up to the this one, which I think in the DPDP era where we see data being the focus. I think
Mhm.
privacy by design is one thing that we should look at while we collect data, we process data, and we also archive and delete the data also. This is how it has to be embedded, and consent management is going to be a bigger piece is what I
Yes,
understand when we look at
absolutely. Right,
DPDP.
right.
So very valid points, sir. Now, how does privacy influence boards confidence?
Okay. Okay, excellent question. Because we spoke about privacy at the design level, at the execution level, all that stuff. So, board is the final authority in any organization, right? So, usually, boards, how do they gain confidence? Okay, as I said, the senior leadership or the board, the biggest thing what they see is the risk. Okay, so if the data privacy risks are known to them. Okay, today I see a lot of boards are much aware, or I would say literate about the data privacy. It's not it's evolved over a period of time when the boards were not much concerned about the data privacy aspects. But today, all 95% of the board, they either have somebody totally concentrating on the data privacy, information security kind of risks, or somebody who is quite aware of, or everybody knows what kind of risks that the data privacy brings in, because the stakes are very high. The moment something happens, the financial risks are high, the penalty wise, the brand risk is very high. The moment it comes out in a press, okay, that's it. To address it, whatever that you do, I'm taking care of this action. It's not a big deal. It's a small amount of data. No, nobody worries about it. It's XYZ company breached with 1 lakh of customer data. So everybody is going to look at, am I one of those 1 lakh customers,
Yeah,
right? So
right.
that's the biggest thing. So the board is really going to look at how much of these are visible to them. Then what kind of controls are available right now? Are we ready with all the controls, and are they measurable? Okay, so are we looking at really measuring them or not? And who's accountable for them? Like what I said, there will be breaches, there will be smaller incidents, bigger incidents, whatever. So who is responsible? Who is accountable? Have we identified the roles and responsibilities of how do we take care either proactively or reactively? Then how predictable these incidents are. So today, this is where AI can play a huge impact in terms of the data protection impact analysis, DPIA, right? So it can go there are a lot of products today available which can just go through your the proximity around your organizations, firewalls, your networks, everything, come back and tell you where are all the vulnerable points, where all things can break. Okay, so do we have all these things is going to be one of the factors that will influence board's confidence. So the privacy maturity uh, gives the board confidence in terms of growth decisions. Okay, I will not have any bad incident with my primary customers, so I'm confident. Then acquisitions, I can acquire organizations because my data is safe, number one, and I have all the knowledge and the wherewithal to assess my the potential acquisition in terms of their compliance. Then I can expand globally. I don't have any risk because my team understands the global data privacy requirements. Even if it is a small country that I'm going to go with a venture, my team knows what are the data privacy policies and what is the across the border requirements for the data, everything. Then, like I said, the predictability, AI adoption, I have that. So I'm confident, the board is going to say. So the privacy, actually for the board, the privacy compliance and the privacy um, policies and the implementation is going to reduce their strategic blind spots, which is the biggest risks that the board will be looking at.
No, I think very important pointers, because when you look at strategy, board needs a direction how exactly the data is going to sit, what is the value that we bring with the current data, and what is the way that we see once the data is having the privacy laws implemented, how secure are we bringing, that is what you're saying. So now coming to that, we have cross-functional divisions across
Yeah,
organizations, right? So how does cross-functional teams play a role in privacy maturity? Because one is the board side, the other side is the cross-functional teams. Because I'll take one example, sir, with this question. We see there was one discussion that was happening is I want to implement IAM example, right? So I want to install, say, IAM as a test bed for with one new tool which is come now. For the application vendor, he is not worried, or the application developer is not worried what is IAM. He wants his applications to work.
yes.
But how do we look at bringing that cross-functional team also understand that without IAM, you are not allowed to log into the screen, and the application will not be of use. So that is one way of looking at my view is your take on it, sir, because every cross-functional team also should be looked at privacy managing their application, also seeing that they adhere the laws. What do you say?
Absolutely, this is very important in any organization because um, the organization is multi. It has multi limbs, right? Hands, legs, and tentacles, all of that, right? So
Yeah.
there are many departments or the cross function, the different functions. Okay, in every organization. Say, for example, there should be one function which should be looking at defining all these requirements or the obligations, which could be depending on the company's organization structure. It could be the CIO organization, or it could be the CISO organization, it could be the legal organization. These are the people that tell the rest of the organization. It's like the brain. They tell what you should do, what you should not do. So,
Yeah.
as you said, all the other functions, like say IT has to secure all their systems. Like say, if they are bringing in a new server or totally a new equipment which is going to sit inside the IT server room, and it is going to monitor, say, in today's context, there are many organizations that put how much people use a certain processes, or even what time they log in, log out, and things like that, right? The productivity based ones. So there are tools that is going to be going around all the employees in an organization. So how safe is this? Can someone just plug it and leak the information? So IT is a very, very important team. Then HR. HR handles all the data about the organization, employees. So it's vital. Like what I said, if HR brings in, say, a new tool for the recruitment, right? So they're going to buy a new tool or develop a new tool, install it. HR will know what the tool needs to do with respect to the HR function, but they may not know how it can probably be a vulnerable one for the rest of the organizational data, right? So that's another function. Then sales. Sales does lots of things with the customer expectations. A proposal. Somebody sends a proposal. Today, the way things are organized, someone need not be an expert in making a proposal, can have all the documents and upload it to a AI tool, and this is my customer information, customer requirement, this is my budget, and this is my technical teams development, this is all my centers across the world. He can put all the information into the AI, and then in minutes and seconds the AI can develop a proposal. But what happens? The whole company data is available in the public domain. All right. So um, sales can be looking at such things. Then marketing, similar way, marketing, they integrate with many things like, say, for example, LinkedIn, and there are so many other places. So how do we make sure, in spite of doing my job, how do we make sure the data doesn't leak? Then the other one is the vendors, the external vendors to with whom I interact with. So these are all the ones. So in essence, the functional teams cannot work in silos. So there has to be a team, like what I said, the CIO, CISO, DPO. These people are the ones that define and let the others know what should be done, what should not be done, and the rest of the organization should go back to them instead of taking a call on their own. The process and the procedures should enable that nobody does without talking to the problem definers or the process makers. So it's like everyone owns privacy, not just the CISO or the CIO or the chief legal officer or the DPO. So it's the responsibility of the entire organization and all departments or all functions.
Sir, we are on top of the hour. I'll take two questions. Then I'll summarize the pointers. Then we'll take it accordingly, sir. Uh,
Sure.
does privacy limit innovation or does it help it?
Great question. Okay. So, um, privacy is something which is going to set you some kind of boundaries, right? In terms of what you should do and what you should not do. But it never says do not innovate. In fact, the more innovations you have, it can even come back, like what I said. AI can play a huge role in terms of finding out the vulnerabilities. You can innovate different ways of how do you ensure, and it can be real time protection, okay, which is a very important thing from the innovation. So as long as the innovations enable the organization with the boundary conditions specified, like increase customer participation. Most of the time what happens is that there is a bypass with customers. The customers are great in terms of innovations sometimes than you, or the customers want you be to be innovative, right? So the thing is, you go and start doing things to win the customer confidence. You start doing things in a lot of technical ways, all right? But what you should do, take the customer consent just like the employee consent. Make sure the customer also understands the importance of privacy. Today, fortunately, most of the customers do. If you go and talk to them, if they say increase your productivity, use whatever is available in AI in the market today, I want you to be 100% more productive from tomorrow. Yes, fine. But go and tell them, because of this, what are the risks and what we
Mm.
need to make sure, like what I said, what kind of customer technology that should not go out, and what are the vulnerabilities that this can bring in. So explain the customer, take the customer along in defining your policies with respect to such things. That's number one. And improve your data quality. So the more your data quality is increasing, and the more your preventions, I mean the breach preventions are taken care, uh, it's better. It is with the kind of innovations that you do. The innovations actually facilitate increasing the data quality. And again, innovations, of course, make sure that you are using the AI capabilities, but within the boundary conditions. Every AI tool today, if you go and look at the configurations, everything provides a lot of controls. The only thing when things go wrong is the configurations are not done properly. So the biggest thing is the configurations need to be looked at, and then the terms and conditions, because many times the tools may have certain accountability and sometimes they may not. Okay, so look at what is allowed within the premises of your compliance. Okay, then if you have a lot of innovations, it's going to help in reducing your regulatory friction. Okay, because simple thing is, if there is a breach, regulatory is asking you, the rest of stopping the arrest of the breach can happen very quickly if you have a very good innovative technology which can stop it immediately. You don't have to run around and take time, and by the time more data gets exposed outside. So it should help in terms of preventing innovation shutdown after a breach. It should not happen. In fact, it should be the other way, opening the innovation if there is a breach. So that is what is going to save you. Or, in other words, the trust accelerates innovation and the fear is going to slow it down.
Thank you, sir. With this, we are on top of the hour, and I would like to take quick summary on what we discussed in the last 1 hour. So, my summary pointers that I have taken is privacy is now a strategy asset. The organizations must treat it as a brand promise, not just compliance checklist. Will and win disappropriate trust and loyalty is that is what we should look at. DPDP and global laws are catalysts, not constraints. They push
Right.
us to clarity, what data we really need and why we process it and how we protect it across the life cycle is one thing that we should be looking at.
Right.
Privacy, as you rightly said, is privacy by design, and AI observability can transform compliance from periodic paperwork into continuous intelligence assurances. What we
Yes.
spoke, and we are looking at those pointers. Then the best programs align CISO, DPO, CIO, legal, business into one operation model with clear decision rights and shared metrics, because that's what we spoke about, the cross domain piece that we wanted to bring in for the organization to look privacy at a overall organization level, right? And fifth point that I would like to look at is the culture is real firewall. When people genuinely respect data, tools, policies start working the way they want to be intended, and that's the intent that we want to bring in. And the leaders question is no longer can we afford to invest in privacy, but can we afford not to, is the question that we should be asking, is what we see.
Right.
When trust is the new currency is what we are trying to build in, right? So that's the pointer that we wanted to summarize, sir. Aravindan sir, thank you for taking us inside the real turning privacy from regulatory headache to the competitive edge. And we've heard how DPDP and global privacy laws are forcing us to rethink data from ground up, but also how very journey can be shaped from operational efficiency, strengthening our brands, opening doors to the new markets is what we are looking at, right? So to every CISO who's watching this, CISOs, DPOs, founders, leaders, here's a reflection of tonight's discussion that we had. Privacy is still
Right.
where privacy is not a checkbox, and organization should look beyond is what for a stronger selling point. That's where we would like to. This is what we have discussed, and that's the summary that I have taken on the 1 hour discussion that we had. Sir, any final pointers that you would like to add before we conclude, sir?
Okay, I think you very nicely summarized it, all the points extremely well, especially for the trust as well. Very good, very nice way of creating this. What I would suggest, or I would like to conclude with, is in the digital economy today, what we have, the data drives growth. Okay, and trust sustains it. Okay, that's how it happens. So the organizations that treat data privacy as a core business value. So today, if you see, a lot of organizations have a lot of core values. Okay, like say somebody will say integrity is my core value. So like that, there are many. So if you make the data privacy as a core business value, that will win the customer trust. Okay, and that will accelerate the innovation. Okay, and that is going to be one of the biggest differentiators, and that will outspace those who just see it as a compliance. Okay, the real advantage begins when the leaders, as I said, they start asking the questions. Instead of are we compliant, they say are we trusted, or how are we trusted. So in one line, compliance keeps you in the game, trust wins the game.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for that. And to have follow Mr. Aravindan Raghavan on LinkedIn for deeper insight. I am bringing his LinkedIn profile URL down here. Follow him, and practical insights and intersection on business excellence, cybersecurity, and privacy. Please connect with our speaker on LinkedIn. This is the link that I am scrolling in. And with this, we would like to conclude our episode for today. And thank you for joining, audience. And we have our session coming up tomorrow, which will be shown on the screen in a little while. Thank you, sir. Thank you for being here. Have a great day, sir. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It was my pleasure talking to you and talking to all the people watching this. Thank you once again.